If you're innovating, creating, or making a difference, this show is for you. Welcome to Over Coffee. I'm Dot Cannon. Here on Over Coffee, we talk with artists and innovators about the process of changing the world in terms of what they do.
Very rarely are we creating things with our hands anymore. And so I think being able to watch kids sort of see these pieces and have the pieces come together, and also the variations in what they create. We're fully outfit with laptop computers, 3D printers, all the tools for carpentry, woodworking, circuitry, anything that they need is all in this trailer. Like an ice cream truck, it sort of pulls up, but unlike an ice cream truck, it totally opens out into this classroom. We'll come and do a couple of demonstrations, just show kids that, science isn't just learning out of a textbook, but it's really all around us and we use it every day.
How do you put creative opportunities on wheels to spark students' imagination? That is exactly what Los Angeles-based nonprofit Think Tank Science is doing with their mobile STEAM lab. Their vision is to bridge the gap between students in underserved communities and cutting-edge resources and mentorship. Think Tank Science offers hands-on education in science, technology, engineering, art, and math by having students learning by making. And they offer a wide variety of courses for learners of all ages. Christina Campbell is the program director for Think Tank Science. Christina, looking at your LinkedIn, you have a passion for supporting transformational change. How did you first discover that passion and come to use it through education?
Yeah, I grew up in a house where education was always really important and access to education was important. Both of my parents came from, pretty regular backgrounds, but both pursued education on their own. I think for my dad, it wasn't necessarily as important to his parents as it was to him. And so he was very much like a champion of his own education. And I think that sort of knowing that story was really impactful growing up. We weren't expected to get A's, but we were expected to give our best effort. And so I think in the competitive environment that I grew up in terms of education, having that as sort of a foundation really set me up for success in knowing that you put in as much as you want to get out. And that being said, not everyone has the same access to education. And so when we were building out Think Tank, that was something that was really important, is how do we bring STEAM education to more students in LA, regardless of their socioeconomic background, what school they attend, what district they're in. And so that was really sort of a guiding star for us.
I love that it's open to students regardless of resources, regardless of where they are. And before we look further at that, your own educational background says that you majored in, I believe, global health and environment. How did that blossom for you into creating curriculum?
Yeah, I, was not interested in science at all, and then had a really great teacher in high school. And she just changed the way that I understood the impact of science as not being just a textbook, but the things around you. And so then I continued sort of spending time in high school. I took amazing classes, and both of my science teachers ended up being my college recommendation letter writers. And so I really credit sort of those three teachers as being launching my interest in science without me even really knowing it. I just knew that I enjoyed it. And so that really changed my perspective on it. And then in undergrad, I thought I was going to major in chemistry, and I took Orgo and I took all of the classes you're supposed to take. And then I think it was my junior year, I had this freak out of, what am I going to do? Everyone in chemistry, all they do is they spend time in a lab, as I saw my courses. And it was, 5-hour labs, and then you'd go to a lecture and another lab. And I talked to a friend's mom, and she's a professor at Michigan, and she works in the health, I think she's in the hospital, but doing research. And she said, have you ever thought about global health? You like learning about people and their circumstances, and health isn't just, and science isn't just numbers, but it's really your environment. It's what's around you. And so she introduced me to someone in the global health department, and I just instantly, it was a connection. I was able to take environmental law courses and really understand these issues that are affecting different neighborhoods and people and groups of people, but from a scientific perspective as well. And so I finished my undergrad in that, and then did my master's online through Northwestern, and then got my master's in global health, and also completed my thesis in Uganda and was doing grant writing to fund rainwater harvesting systems. And so it was a really great way to understand that they are relying on their environment to affect their daily lives, which then affect their health, which then affect all of these conditions and illnesses and diseases and things like that. And it was such an impactful experience for me that it's interesting talking about it, because I didn't realize how big of a role sort of science played in my education and in my upbringing.
That sounds like the best kind of education.
Yeah.
You don't realize you're learning, but you are
No,
really
I
in the
didn't at
world.
all. Not at all. Literally until now am I thinking about it.
Completing your thesis in Uganda has to have been the experience of a lifetime. Before we look
Loved
at
it.
Think Tank, tell me one of your favorite stories from that, please.
I think I would say favorite in the sense that it really helped me understand the privilege that we have here. We were volunteering at a clinic, and we're in a rickety van driving up this curved hill for I don't know how long. And we get to the top, and there's a line of women with their babies and young children lined up all along the ridge of this hill. And we were with a doctor, and there were, I think, three other grad students, and the rest were undergrad students that were part of our project. And I remember asking, what are these women lining up for? And they said, oh, well, we get X number of vaccines. And so the women will line up for days knowing we're coming and to get their babies vaccinated. And I said, well, how do they know how many you have? And they said, it just depends. Sometimes the government gives us 50, sometimes 10. And so these women are so dedicated, but they know the value of vaccinations. They know the value of protecting their kids and how important it is that they will hike up this hill for I don't even know how long to stand in line in the hopes of getting a vaccination. And so things like that are just ingrained in my brain.
Please tell me
Hmm.
the story of Think Tank Science. How the project
Yeah.
was implemented.
I met Elad and his wife, Therese, 5 years ago now, when their daughter joined the school that Phil and I were working at. And so they had been to a number of different schools. They joined the school that we were working at. And I ended up leaving that school about 2.5 years ago. And maybe 2 years ago, Elad came to us and said, Phil is running an amazing program. I want to bring it to more students. Would you be interested in sort of partnering with us to create Think Tank? And at first, I kind of didn't know what to say because it wasn't something that I'd really considered. I think Phil and I are great in many ways, but I think where we really shine is when he sort of says, I have an idea, I want to build something, and then I can create the curriculum so that students of varying ages can sort of learn these fundamental and sometimes complex science topics in really hands on ways. And so we really got into a position where he said, I want to teach kids about circuitry. Great. How about a Bluetooth speaker? What are the pieces that go into that? There's perimeter, there's area, there's volume in terms of the shape, but there's also frequency and vibrations and Ohm's law and all of these things involved in the actual Bluetooth speaker. And so that's just kind of an example of sort of where we thought of Think Tank. And then in terms of funding, which is sort of my background is in fundraising, we really relied on the offers for their sort of initial capital to get everything started. And Phil began building out our trailer in February, and he finished in just about April or so. And then we really spent the summer sort of doing outreach to various schools. And then in the fall, we launched our first round of after school programs and have continued that.
What do you remember very best about the first time that STEAM Lab rolled and that you went and did a program?
Oh my gosh, I was freaking out because I didn't know. I didn't know. Phil talked about it's going to be completely off the grid, solar powered, everything we need is here. And so when we first sort of launched and I saw it in motion, I went, oh my gosh, it really is everything you said it would be. It truly can go anywhere a car can go. So a parking lot, a park, a school, an office building, I mean, anywhere that there is space, we can go. And so it's pretty incredible to see.
Take me inside of that for a minute. When you bring that STEAM Lab to a school, and you can choose any grade here you want, but what are we going to be showing the kids? What are you bringing? What happens?
Yeah, so when we show up, the trailer is hooked up to the truck and we open, there's a back door, there's a side door, a side sort of panel that comes down, and then we have an awning, so it really opens into truly a mobile classroom. We can fit 30 students. We have all the tables, chairs, space that is needed for a typical class size in public school. And we have a big rolling cart that has our chop saw. It has something that collects all the wood dust. And so it rolls out, and students are able to stand around it and be a part of learning all of these tools. And so it sort of comes in this compact, I guess not truly compact because it's, 26 feet long, but it is relatively compact in the sense that, like an ice cream truck, it sort of pulls up. But unlike an ice cream truck, it totally opens out into this classroom. And we're able to have a screen on the outside. So if we have students that we need to show them something, we're able to do that. We're fully outfit with laptop computers, 3D printers, all the tools for carpentry, woodworking, circuitry, anything that they need is all in this trailer.
Wow, what's one of the absolute coolest things that the students get to make?
I don't know if it's a specific project, but I think there's something to be said for making something with your hands. Very rarely now. I mean, you can use AI to create things, but they're all on your computer. Very rarely are we creating things with our hands anymore. And so I think being able to watch kids sort of see these pieces and have the pieces come together and also the variations in what they create. So, one of our most popular after school programs is where students build an LED lamp. And it's great. And, it's a pretty, I would say, straightforward project, but you'd be surprised how much variation there is. You'll notice that you'll say, if you use more or less stain on the wood, it will be darker, lighter. Some kids will be more creative and sort of create images out of stain. Others will say, I don't want as much stain. And you just see this level of creativity and flexibility that I don't think you really have in sort of a typical, classroom assignment, because there's also a level of error there too. And very rarely are we able to make mistakes and then sort of leave the mistakes where they are because we recognize that they're learning opportunities. And that's also what makes it all different. You can't make everything the same, and that's not life. And so being able to say, well, I didn't, meet the corners completely, and one is overhanging the other, but I like it that way. Or I don't like it that way, but I've learned now how important it is to measure my wood exactly. And I think that's an important lesson and one that I constantly have to remind myself as an adult.
Perfectionism is a curse. I think everybody
Mm-hmm.
experiences that. What if a teacher's listening from a school in an underprivileged area? They can't really afford to have the lab come.
Yeah. So we do, I mean, my background is in fundraising. And so one of our goals is to make sure that any school, regardless of whether they have the funds or, sometimes the challenge isn't even about funding, but it's about sort of the infrastructure and administrative ability to coordinate us coming. Oftentimes that's more of a challenge than funding is because we're able to get some grant funds so that we can supplement our instructors and our sort of costs to do the program. But a lot of times the biggest hurdle is just getting into a school. of saying to an assistant head of school or a principal and saying, hey, we have this program, we'd like to bring it to you for free. Let us know a date and time that works. And sometimes it is just they are so inundated with sort of their day to day operations that that is the biggest hurdle, which is mind blowing.
Oh, that certainly is. I mean, I'd be all over this if I were a school principal right now. Suppose a principal is listening, an educator, anybody in the Southern California area, especially. How do they find out more?
Yeah, I would say just email info@thinktankscience.org. And we're happy to coordinate with you on any ideas that you have, whether it's after school programs, integrated programs during the school day, any demonstrations. We'll come and do a couple of demonstrations, just show kids that, science isn't just learning out of a textbook, but it's really, all around us and we use it every day.
I really love that you said you were not that into science until your teachers related it to your world.
Yeah, I mean, it really, because it can be so in the weeds that sometimes like your eyes gloss over, but so often the things that we use are based on these sort of scientific principles. It's the reason that tables stand up. It's the reason there are picture frames on the wall, things that you just don't even think of, but it's all around us. And I think are all skills that we need to have as well.
Let's be sure and do a shameless plug too. You're a nonprofit, but there is no such thing as a nonprofit that doesn't have to keep the lights on. You offer some services that people can actually buy. Would you tell me about these?
Yeah, so we offer birthday parties. And so those we are able to do those on the weekends. We also offer after school programs, and we can come to your school and work with your principal or whomever organizes those. And those are paid opportunities. But we also understand that even if a school for the most part is able to afford it, there may be families that can't. And so we're open to, just send us an email and we're able to work with you to figure out pricing that works for you. And I'm trying to think of other things that we have. We'll do different sort of festivals and fairs and all of those kinds of things as well.
Any kind of a geographical limit? I'm assuming up and down the state of California, but I might be mistaken.
Yeah, we mostly stick to the area around LA County, but we can kind of go as far as like 2 or 3 hours out even.
So if somebody's listening to us from maybe Santa Barbara right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what has been one of your absolute favorite moments of seeing a student be empowered through what you were doing with Think Tank?
So we actually had a student who took a couple of classes with us, and then she got assigned a science project or a science fair project of some kind, and she decided that she wanted to use epoxy in hers and have LED lights in it. And her parents said, we have no idea where she got this. We have no idea how to do this. And she came to them and said, here's the list of things that I need. Here's where I need help. And she said, I need help mixing the epoxy, not with the soldering of the LED lights, not with where to place them, not with drilling the holes in the box for where they were going to go. And it was so great to see that she took the skills that she got from class into her own world, her own science fair project. She knew where to ask for help and what she needed, but it was such a great way of seeing a student advocate for what they need and want, and also see them take charge and have the autonomy to create something that they imagined in their head. And so that was pretty cool.
I love that this is a young woman taking charge. She may very well be an engineer of the future. That is so fun.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I don't know, whatever she wants to be. Even if this is just like learning, I could imagine her being, an adult and knowing how to do these things. I didn't know how to do these things. I didn't know what to ask for. I felt myself going into Home Depot or Lowe's and kind of saying, I don't know what I'm doing, but I need help. And for her to be able to go into a store or to ask someone for help and say, here's what I know. I know X, Y, and Z. Here's what I don't know. And be able to ask really specific questions, ask for exactly what she needs, and be able to execute something on her own. Like, that's where I see her. If she wants to become an engineer, great. But I also see it as sort of like in her day to day life as an adult. I hope she remembers these things.
Speaking of an adult, this is not just for kids.
No.
What do you have for us big kids?
Yeah. Yeah, we do adult classes as well. We've been talking about launching sort of a DIY, how do you refurbish a dresser? Or how do you take something where you buy it from Habitat for Humanity, and how do you repurpose something? And so how do you upholster a chair? All of these things that, yes, are science, but they're also hands-on things that we all need to know. So often there are adults that we meet that don't know how to use a drill, don't know how to measure something, don't know how to hang a picture frame. And so we really want to focus on all of these different skills. And when we teach adults, it's like this light bulb moment of, oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was so easy. It was just nobody showed me how. And so we're talking about sort of launching that DIY class. But as of now, we also, the same as kids, we offer Bluetooth speaker classes. We offer how to make an LED lamp classes, how to make a cheese board. And so we just find different ways to meet adults where they are.
And I would encourage anybody to take a look at your YouTube channel, because you have this wonderful tutorial on how to make an LED lantern that utterly wowed me when I got to the end of it. Where do you want to take Think Tank in the next 5 years? If anything could happen, what would happen for you?
I think I would love, as of right now, we have one trailer. So I'd love to have more than one trailer, because even now we're finding ourselves where there is a demand and we simply can't always meet it. And it's purely because we don't have more of the trailer. And so creating more of those, a fleet of them, would be amazing. And I'd also just, as of now, we're working with Beyond the Bell with LAUSD, and we're working with Compton Unified School District. But I think there are many other school districts we want to be partnered with. So I'd love to see Pasadena Unified, Culver City, Santa Clarita. I mean, any school district that wants it, I'd love to be able to bring the program. I think every student deserves new opportunities and access. And so that's definitely a top priority for us.
School districts, reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need anything in terms of volunteers or any other kind of support from the general public?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great. We have, anyone who is able to volunteer helps bring down our operating costs, which then allows us to be in more places. So we're totally open to volunteers. We have a lot of upcoming camps and programs, after school programs, integrated classroom opportunities. So we welcome any and all volunteers. We also just love some people who have ideas. We're a small organization, and so the more minds you have involved in sort of bringing new perspectives, the better.
Final question is my podcast signature question. If people could only get one thing from you about innovation, creativity, and making a difference, what would you really love them to take away from your work that you're doing with Think Tank?
I think it is that you need to meet people where they are. One of the reasons that we created Think Tank was because we noticed that schools either had a makerspace but didn't have the instructors, or had the instructors but didn't have the makerspace. And so we wanted to be able to fill in the gap wherever it is. And so sometimes it just took a lot of listening and asking questions to understand what people needed. And I think sometimes we forget to do the active listening part, and that can often give you answers, even when you least expect it.
Christina, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. It was great chatting.
You and I have been listening to Christina Campbell, Program Director for Think Tank Science. Find out more about Think Tank Science's integrated classroom programs, summer day camps, and their after-school programs at thinktankscience.org. And check out their event services. These include birthday parties and mobile workshops. You can also reach out to them if you'd like to support them by volunteering. Again, that website, thinktankscience.org. And that concludes this edition of Over Coffee. Thank you for listening. Listen to more Over Coffee podcasts at twomavericks.com. That's 2 TWO Mavericks, Maverix. Be sure you subscribe. It's free by clicking the link on our website. Our music is royalty-free production music provided by Pond5 at pond5.com. I'm Dot Cannon. Here's wishing you a cappuccino day.